You cancel plans again, not because you dislike people, but because silence feels better than noise. While others recharge in crowds, you breathe easier alone. If a quiet room feels safer than a busy one, this isn't antisocial behavior. It's your mind protecting its energy. Society has a very narrow idea of what a good life looks like. It usually involves being busy, being social, being seen. If you're not going out often, if you don't enjoy crowds or constant conversations, something must be wrong with you. People assume you're lonely, sad, or missing out. But that assumption says more about society's fears than about your reality. We live in a culture that confuses noise with happiness and visibility with worth. If you're not participating loudly, you're treated as if you're failing quietly. From a young age, many of us are taught that being outgoing is better. The loud child is confident. The quiet one is shy. Invitations are seen as opportunities you should always accept, and turning them down feels like breaking an unspoken rule. So when someone prefers being alone, the world rushes to label them antisocial, boring, closed off. These labels stick, even when they don't fit, and over time people start carrying them inside, wondering if they're broken for not wanting what everyone else seems to want. But being alone is not the same as being lonely. Loneliness is a lack of connection. Solitude is a choice. Society often misses that difference. It assumes that if you enjoy your own company, you must secretly be unhappy. In reality, many people feel most like themselves when they are alone. Away from small talk, expectations, and constant performance, they can finally relax. Their thoughts slow down, their body softens, their mind feels clear. The truth is, society celebrates one type of energy and ignores the rest. It rewards people who are loud, fast, and outward, but it forgets the quiet minds that think deeply, observe carefully, and feel intensely. Preferring solitude doesn't mean you hate people. It often means you value depth over display, meaning over motion, and peace over proving something to the world. At the center of this preference for being alone is something very simple: how your energy works. Not motivation, not confidence, energy. Every interaction with the world costs something. For some people, being around others adds energy. Conversation, movement, and shared moments make them feel more alive. For others, those same experiences slowly drain their inner battery, even when they're enjoyable. It's not about liking or disliking people. It's about how your nervous system responds to stimulation. Psychologists often describe this difference through introversion and extroversion, but those words are often misunderstood. Introversion doesn't mean shy or awkward. It means your mind processes information deeply. When you're around people, your brain is working harder, reading expressions, tracking tone, filtering noise, staying socially present. That constant processing uses energy. Over time, you feel tired, not because something bad happened, but because your system has been working nonstop. Extroverted nervous systems work differently. They need more outside input to feel balanced. Silence feels flat to them. Stillness can feel empty. So they seek stimulation to feel normal. Introverted or solitude-oriented people are the opposite. Too much input overwhelms their system. Noise piles up, conversations blur together, their thoughts get crowded. Being alone lowers that pressure. It gives the mind room to breathe. This is often explained through something called optimal arousal. Every brain has a comfort level for stimulation. Some brains feel best when things are lively. Others feel best when things are calm. Neither is better. Neither is healthier. They are simply different settings. Problems begin when people are forced to live outside their natural range for too long. When someone prefers being alone, they're not withdrawing from life. They're returning to balance. Solitude isn't an escape. It's how their system resets. It's the place where their energy refills, their thoughts settle, and their sense of self comes back online. Some people don't just prefer quiet, their bodies actually respond better to it. This has a lot to do with the nervous system and how sensitive it is to stimulation. Sounds, lights, movement, conversations, even other people's emotions all send signals to the brain. For certain nervous systems, those signals arrive louder and faster. What feels normal to others can feel overwhelming to them. When stimulation stays high for too long, the body goes into a subtle state of stress. The heart works a little harder. Muscles stay slightly tense. The mind jumps from one input to another without rest. This isn't always dramatic. Often it just feels like fatigue, irritation, or a strong desire to leave and be alone. Quiet environments lower that stress. The body relaxes, breathing slows, thoughts become clearer. This is why low stimulation spaces feel so comforting to some people. Their system finally feels safe enough to rest. This preference is often linked to high sensitivity. Highly sensitive people process information deeply and notice details others miss. A small noise, a shift in tone, or a crowded room can carry a lot of weight. Their brain is not weak or anxious, it's simply tuned in. And when everything is turned up, it needs things to be turned down somewhere else. Low stimulation doesn't mean isolation or emptiness. It means fewer inputs, not fewer emotions. In fact, these individuals often feel more when things are quiet. Without constant distractions, they can connect more deeply with their thoughts, memories, and inner signals. Solitude becomes a place of regulation, not withdrawal. In a world designed for speed and volume, low stimulation preference can feel out of place. But it isn't a flaw. It's a natural response from a nervous system that values calm over chaos. For these people, quiet isn't boring. It's grounding. For many people who prefer being alone, the pull towards solitude isn't just about quiet. It's about control, safety, and predictability. When you're out in the world, very little is in your hands. Plans change without warning. Conversations go in directions you didn't expect. People interrupt, misunderstand, or demand energy you didn't plan to give. Even small uncertainties add up. Your body stays alert, waiting to adjust, respond, or defend itself. At home or in a familiar space, that tension fades. You control the lighting, the noise, the pace. You choose when to speak and when to be silent. Nothing surprises your system. For someone with a sensitive nervous system or a history of anxiety, this sense of control is not a luxury. It's what allows their body to finally relax. Safety isn't always about danger. Sometimes it's about knowing what comes next. Predictability gives the mind room to rest. When your surroundings are familiar, your brain doesn't have to stay on high alert. It doesn't need to scan faces, decode intentions, or prepare for sudden changes. This is especially important for people who have experienced emotional unpredictability in the past. If you grew up around inconsistency, criticism, or emotional chaos, your nervous system may have learned to stay guarded. Familiar environments signal that the guard can come down. This is why solitude often feels soothing instead of empty. It removes pressure. There's no need to perform, explain yourself, or keep up appearances. You can exist without being evaluated. In that space, your thoughts slow down and your body feels more like it belongs to you. Choosing controlled environments doesn't mean you fear the world. It means you understand your limits. For some people, peace comes from freedom. For others, peace comes from predictability. Wanting safety and control is not weakness. It's self-knowledge. When the noise of the world fades, something else becomes louder. Your inner voice. This is where solitude reveals one of its greatest strengths. People who enjoy being alone often think deeply, not because they're trying to, but because quiet gives their mind space to wander and connect ideas. Without constant interruptions, thoughts can unfold naturally. One idea leads to another. Memories resurface. Questions form and slowly find answers. Creativity thrives in these moments. Many insights are not born in busy rooms or loud conversations, but in stillness. When the brain isn't reacting to external demands, it shifts into a more reflective mode. Patterns become easier to notice. Problems are approached from new angles. This is why people who value solitude are often good at problem solving. They don't rush to conclusions. They sit with questions until something clicks. Solitude also strengthens self-understanding. Being alone allows you to observe your own thoughts without outside influence. You start to notice what excites you, what drains you, and what truly matters to you. This kind of awareness doesn't come from constant interaction. It comes from listening inward. Over time, this builds emotional clarity. You're less likely to be pulled in every direction because you know where you stand. There's a quiet confidence that grows in solitude. Not the loud kind that demands attention, but a steady sense of knowing yourself. People who spend time alone often develop rich inner worlds. They find meaning in small routines, deep interests, and moments others might overlook. Their imagination becomes a companion rather than a distraction. This doesn't mean they don't value connection. It means they value meaningful connection. Solitude helps them bring depth into relationships instead of surface-level noise. In a world that celebrates constant output, choosing reflection becomes an advantage. It's where ideas mature, emotions settle, and creativity takes its time to breathe. If you're listening to this and quietly nodding, there's something important you need to hear. Nothing about you is wrong. You don't need to force yourself to be louder, busier, or more social just to fit a standard that was never designed for you. Wanting time alone, needing space to think, or feeling most at ease in your own company isn't a flaw. It's a signal. Your mind knows what it needs, even when the world keeps telling you otherwise. So many people spend years pushing against their natural rhythm. They say yes when their body wants rest. They show up when their energy is already empty. Over time, that creates exhaustion, resentment, and a quiet sense of disconnection from themselves. Choosing solitude when it truly fills you is not giving up on life. It's listening to it. It's choosing alignment over approval. At the same time, understanding yourself is an ongoing process. The more you learn how your mind works, the easier it becomes to move through the world without guilt or confusion. That's what this space is about. Not telling you who to be, but helping you recognize who you already are beneath the noise. If these ideas resonate with you, you're not alone in them. There are many people quietly living this way, even if they're not always visible. This channel exists for those moments of recognition, when something finally clicks and you feel understood. If you'd like more conversations like this about psychology, behavior, and the patterns that shape us, you can subscribe gently at your own pace. And before moving on, take a moment to notice how this feels. Feeling seen can be powerful. Sometimes that awareness alone is enough to change how you treat yourself. While solitude can be healing, it's important to be honest about when it stops being helpful. Not all time alone is the same. Sometimes being alone is a choice that restores you. Other times it becomes a place you hide because the outside world feels too heavy. The difference is subtle, but it matters. One brings calm, the other slowly shrinks your life. When being alone is healthy, it leaves you feeling clearer and more grounded. You return to the world with more patience and presence. But when it's driven by fear, shame, or exhaustion that never lifts, solitude can start to feel numb instead of peaceful. Days blur together, motivation fades. The thought of reaching out feels overwhelming, even when you want connection deep down. This is often where social anxiety, past trauma, or depression quietly show up. If your nervous system learned that people are unsafe, unpredictable, or draining in painful ways, retreat can feel like protection. And in many cases, it once was. But what protected you in one season of life can limit you in another. Avoidance can wear the same disguise as self-care, making it hard to tell them apart. A helpful question to ask is this: does being alone help me feel more alive, or does it help me feel less? Healthy solitude expands your inner world. Unhealthy isolation makes it smaller. One creates space for thoughts and feelings to move. The other keeps them stuck in a loop. This isn't about forcing yourself to be social or judging your habits. It's about awareness, noticing patterns without blame. If being alone no longer brings relief, it may be a sign that something deeper needs care, not silence. And seeking support in those moments isn't a failure of independence. It's an act of honesty with yourself. There's a gentle but important distinction to make when it comes to being alone: peace versus avoidance. On the surface, they can look exactly the same. In both cases, you're choosing quiet. You're staying home. You're turning inward. But the feeling underneath tells a very different story. Peace feels settling. Avoidance feels heavy. Learning to notice that difference can change how you relate to your solitude. Peace leaves your body softer. Your breathing deepens. Your thoughts move freely instead of circling the same worries. After time alone, you feel more like yourself. There's a sense of fullness, even if nothing dramatic happened. Avoidance, on the other hand, often comes with tension. Your body stays tight. Your mind replays conversations you didn't have or situations you're trying not to face. Time alone doesn't restore you. It simply delays discomfort. One way to check in with yourself is to notice what happens after solitude. Do you feel clearer or more closed off? More curious or more numb? Peace expands your capacity. Avoidance narrows it. Another helpful question is whether you're choosing solitude or defaulting into it. Choice comes with a sense of agency. Avoidance often comes with guilt or relief mixed with shame. You can also pay attention to your inner dialogue. Peace sounds like, "This is what I need right now." Avoidance sounds like, "I can't deal with this." Neither voice is wrong, but they're pointing to different needs. One is asking for rest, the other may be asking for support, safety, or gradual exposure to what feels difficult. This framework isn't about labeling yourself or changing overnight. It's about listening with curiosity instead of judgment. Some days you may need deep solitude. Other days, a small step outward might bring more relief than staying in. Understanding the difference allows you to use solitude as a tool, not a hiding place. When you know why you're choosing quiet, it becomes an act of care rather than escape. Preferring to be alone doesn't mean you're disconnected from life. It often means you're deeply connected to yourself. In a world that constantly asks you to perform, to react, and to stay visible, choosing quiet can be an act of clarity. It's a way of stepping out of the noise and returning to what feels real. For some people, depth matters more than volume, and meaning matters more than movement. Those who value solitude tend to notice things others pass by. Small shifts in mood, subtle changes in energy, the comfort of familiar routines, and the quiet satisfaction of being present with their own thoughts. Their inner world is not empty. It's layered, reflective, and alive. And when they do connect with others, they often bring sincerity and depth rather than surface-level presence. At the same time, solitude works best when it's chosen with awareness, when it's rooted in self-understanding rather than fear. Being alone can be a place of restoration, creativity, and peace, but only when it remains flexible. Life still asks us to step out at times, to be seen, to risk connection in small, manageable ways. The goal isn't to live isolated or overstimulated, but to live aligned. If you see yourself in this, you're not behind. You're not missing out. You're simply living at a different pace, one that values inner stability over constant activity, one that listens before it reacts, one that chooses presence over pressure. So here's the question to sit with after this ends. When you choose to be alone, is it because it brings you closer to yourself, or because it keeps you from something you're afraid to face? Your answer isn't something to judge, it's something to understand.